Right, let's go across the street.
Okay, yeah, we're going up to Speaker's Corner. I've never been to Speaker's Corner before. Have you, Richard?
What?
Have you been to Speaker's
Yeah, I
Corner
have.
before?
There used to be a guy called Lord Safer. I think he was head of the Methodist Church. Every Sunday he'd be there. And he wasn't the only one, there'd be others who'd be there. And he was very mild, but he had other blokes who deliberately went, you can express any view you want to, so long as you don't preach anything to do which is traitorous or
so at Speaker's Corner you can talk about anything.
You get some good heckling.
Yeah.
Those people for the fun of it, you know. And it used to be good, but that's over there on the site where the original gibbet was when they used to have the public hangings.
Public hangings in London.
Yeah. They used to
That's
get
where
quite
they used
a
to
big
have it
crowd.
down there. Yeah.
They stopped that these days. It's apparently not considered a decent thing to do, hanging public.
Yeah, of course. Of course, Richard, not in this day and age.
But
what period was that though?
What?
What period was that?
That would have been in the 17th and early 18th century.
Oh yeah, okay. Is that touching Victorian?
Yeah,
time is
very much so.
Okay. Okay, so we're going to walk past where they used to do the public hangings. I want to see this.
I don't know where there's a plaque or anything where the ditch used to be, but this is the great area where speakers were. And you get, on a Sunday, anything up to half a dozen people, literally with a soapbox which they stood on.
On what box?
A soapbox, an ordinary wooden box.
Okay.
Nothing elaborate, and you said your piece, and that was it.
Okay, and would people cheer you, or would people just...
Oh, I disagree, they'd argue with you, and...
so it could become like a debate?
It did become a public debate.
Aha, okay.
And this is it, this is where it used to be.
Nice. Okay, what, right? In this area?
In this area around here.
Did you hear that? They used to have the public hangings here, right here in this circle.
They'd be here, but this is where, that's possibly where they built a platform. They used to come up Oxford Street from Holborn. There's a pub down there which used to be where they used to have their last meal.
Oh.
And it was right top of Drury Lane. They used to go and have their last meal, get on the cart, then come down the cart.
So wonders they could eat.
There you go. Your last sight of London was Hyde Park corner.
This is Speaker's Corner.
Yeah.
What's here?
This there. That's there.
And now they use here. Is that what you?
They anywhere really, as long as it's on Speaker's Corner there.
Okay.
And it's free. You don't have somebody coming out. It's like you've got free deck chairs here too.
Free to express your views.
Get anything free from Westminster Council makes a change, doesn't it?
I'm at Speaker's Corner. If it's Speaker's Corner, people can come here on a Sunday and they can talk about any issue whatsoever they would like. I'm here today and I'm here to talk about Unheard Holler, which is a blog. I'm glad that the blog exists. The reason why I'm glad that it exists because it gives people a chance, or individuals a chance to release their anxieties and express their fears. It gives people the opportunities to speak about life's ups and life's downs. My personal thing that I would like to express is people freeing up their minds. Freeing up, you know, the mind is a funny thing where paranoia can set in at any time. And it's good to know that people can express their feelings rather than repress it. Holler their concerns, their unheard voices. I've been learning about the unconscious processes at work or in different types of institution and how people use defense mechanisms so that they don't have to deal with their own fears. People use defense mechanisms. Some of the defense mechanisms that people use could be like projection, where a person might project their own feelings onto another person because they cannot deal with those feelings. You see this a lot in the nurseries, within younger children at the nurseries, when things go wrong in their lives. For instance, mum and dad might have split up, and this child might come to the nursery and has never displayed any type of like inappropriate behaviour. But all of a sudden you notice that the child's come in and really acting aggressive. It is our job as practitioners that work in the early years sector to speak with their parents, find out, working through partnership with parents, find out what if there's issues at home, is something wrong at home, has the child gone through a new transition, things like that. But will help the practitioner to then help that child by planning for that child's learning. So as I said, a lot of projective identification goes on within children in the early years, just like adults as well. So now I talk about some of the unconscious processes that can happen in the workplace, such as repression, where people, what goes on in a person's mind cannot be seen. So I work as a EYP, an early years graduate leader. I lead in all areas of the early years curriculum, and in so doing I also have to pick up on the unconscious processes at work, i.e. a practitioner might, a worker, an employee might be going through a really bad time at the moment at home for whatever reason, and failing to meet their targets at work. I can use some of the unconscious processes, pick up on what's happening, and actually help as a leader, help that employee to meet their targets, to not to cause splits, to more bring unification and integrate splits, to make our task performance work, I've been thinking a lot about the riots and the participants in the riots, and it brought me back to my childhood, being at secondary school, and there was a riot, I think it was in Lewisham, where 13 young black children had been killed in a house fire, and I was at secondary school at the time, maybe about say 13, 14, and my friends and I, we decided, well, we're going to skip school and we're going to protest against what had taken place. And unfortunately, I was the only one that got out of school. The others were captured and caught and returned back to their classroom. And I said, yeah, I'm still going to go. Whilst demonstrating with a lot of people that I didn't know, and to tell you the truth, all I knew was that 13 black children had died in a fire and I was going to protest. I didn't know nothing about protesting or anything like that. And whilst mixing with the crowd, I remember seeing, I think it was a can of Coke. Someone had thrown a can of Coke in the air that had hit a policeman, and this, to me, was what sparked off the riot. We had nearly got as far as near to Downing Street, I remember. And I remember my biggest fear at that time was my father and me being out of school and him thinking that I was in school, and the repercussions that I would face from him for coming out of school. And it's funny that in the mayhem and the madness of the riots, I'm wondering if people wasn't really thinking, like about their children, because I just remember that was my biggest fear, was my father and what I was going to get if I didn't get home or if I was arrested, and that is what led me back home. So in saying that, I'd like to say that, parents, we cannot make our children fearful of us. It's not the right thing to do. But we have to try and bring our children up in a way to let them respect us, to know that, like, Dad's going to be really hurt if I'm out of school because I love my father. So we need to bring a lot of love back into the community, I believe.
Well, I said we're here at This Is Speaker's Corner, and this place here, I often come down here on a Sunday, not as much as I used to, because it's the one place in London where you can stand up and express opinions without being arrested, so you don't talk about anything treasonable. But there's one point I would like to make which has nothing to do with Speaker's Corner, and that goes to two disabled people on the Isle of Wight who took their local council to task over the cuts in support for vulnerable and particularly people who were either physically or mentally had some mental problems. The case went to the High Court earlier this week, and the High Court in London ruled in their favour, and because what the Isle of Wight Council had done is they'd completely gone against their own guidelines as to how they should treat people. One appeal I make now is let's have a few more people complaining about their own councils. There's a lot of slash and burn policy going on with Camden, with Islington, with many of the councils in London, particularly in my area of Camden. And it's time these councils were brought to task and said, in your own rules and recommendations, you state the level of care should be there, and they're not fulfilling that. So let's have a few more people, and let's keep the High Court as busy as we possibly can whilst these cuts are going on. That's all I have to say. The poll tax riots, I was working for a company in Drury Lane, and I went in on the, I think it was a Sunday, Saturday or Sunday, and I was doing some work to catch up. I came out and I walked down Drury Lane to go and have a drink in a pub in just off Bowling Green Lane. And the scene of devastation, I mean the whole area was trashed. We went down towards, it had been completely trashed. The cars burnt out, windows smashed, and you think, what's been going on here? Well, yes, I don't agree with the damage that was caused, but it did do one thing. They got rid of the poll tax, and also it was the start of the demise of Margaret Thatcher. That really put the wind up everybody, because although people decried what had been going on violently, the whole country was behind this ridiculous tax. Personal example, I had a little studio flat bang opposite the British Medical Association in Upper Woburn Place. Upper Woburn Place. I had my one bag of rubbish I used to put out at the end of the week, and across me was the president of the BMA's London Grace and Favour flat, where he entertained virtually every night of the week. And outside, every day, there'd be about 5 or 6 bags of rubbish, all the sort of the stuff left over, and he was paying the same poll tax on his property as I was paying on my little studio flat opposite. And they said it was a fair tax. That's absolutely ridiculous. So riots do help. I don't agree with what happened in Tottenham, but at least it's got a few people, in terms of the damage, but at least you've got a few people looking into why did this happen. And some of the agencies that have been sort of citing this sort of issues will now perhaps get some support from people saying, well, let's listen to what's happening. Because it wasn't about just the looting, it was something that kicked off there. And well, to put it honestly, what kicked it off was the police refusing to see the family of the chap who was shot by a police marksman. And they went and waited 3 hours, and neither the Crown Prosecution, not the CP, Crown Prosecution Service, but neither the Police Complaints Authority nor Tottenham Police put up something to meet them. And that's what kicked that off. And that, people then joined in and rioted for other reasons who got involved with the looting. But that's the thing that sparked the tumble up. But yeah, riots can work sometimes. It makes people sit back and think.
Yeah, and I would agree. I would agree with you, Richard.
It's interesting too that the government, with this marvellous fund that they've set aside to help pay out victims of the riots who have shops damaged or property damaged, have not yet paid out a penny towards the shopkeepers who lost stock. And they're not likely to pay it out till early next year. So people who want to get their shops stocked with Christmas stock, until at Christmas time, won't have the stock there to do it because they can't afford to buy it. Cheers, love doing that to kids. She's not with us. Alright, okay.
Yeah, but yes, it's been a nice day. It's been a nice day at home.
It's been brilliant.
And I'm really, really, really fascinated. And I'll be coming to Speaker's Corner.